Hey, welcome to Early Access Control Alpha, Beta, and Abandoned. And what we're doing right now is we are taking a look at CardLife 1.0, CardLife Creative Survival, whatever you want to call it. Now, this game came to Steam February 28th, 2019. But before we get into that, let me just say that this was on my radar prior to me taking a little bit of a hiatus. The reason why it was is because it was something that I've been following on Twitter for quite some time. I think I started following it maybe 2017 when I first saw it, and I might have saw it on IndieDB. And I even think I might have played a demo of it, but I can't say for certain, so we don't have to go too much into that. But this thing had some really cool features that I hadn't seen in the survival genre before, and it had a new twist on the art style, which is always, if you're going to launch a game in this kind of genre, at least bring new art to it, because the gameplay is fairly similar no matter what game you're actually playing, and either you love it or you hate it. But the one thing that changes is the art style, and if you bring that, you're going to bring a fresh audience to it no matter what. So that's advice for any future devs out there. So when this came and I saw it, I was like, oh cool, I love survival games. Oh cool, I love how this operates, and I love that you can like create things out of cardboard and create them in game, and it's voxel based and all these kind of cool things, and it made me really kind of interested. So when it came, I wishlisted it and it hit Steam, and I watched it, didn't buy it. I do what everybody else should do, just kind of sit back and just take a look at what's going on the first couple weeks, unless you're certain that a game is going to take off, which is kind of kind of hard to tell, especially in this ecosystem of Steam Early Access. So Freejam launched it. I watched, I waited, and it was being developed. It's a similar kind of story for every survival game. Lots of people interested in where it's going. They're getting keen on like the roadmap, and there's bugs that need to be addressed, and there's features that they want. There's features that are promised from the devs that they're going to get, and all these kind of things. And the timeline of how these were tossed out, or how the community actually got them, I'm not 100% certain on, because I wasn't really looking at it, I wasn't watching it, and it's just resulted in kind of a similar situation where the game's abandoned now. And now, to give you a little bit more insight onto that, a year after it got launched on Steam, I did some digging finally into the community and tried to watch and get an idea, test the room temperature of how things are going. And it turned out that the devs had shift focus to a different game called Gamecraft. And when I kind of learned of that, I was like, whoa, what's going on with that? That's always a piss off of mine when developers do that kind of thing. And I know there's other people in our community that kind of like feel the same way. And so it's like a kick in the nuts to the people that bought the game and the community, and they're trying to support the development of the game that they're interested in, but it's just not good enough for the devs to give time and energy to. So they shift focus and they leave us, people behind to work on their prettier girlfriend, or whatever you want to say. So I came across it almost a year to the date of when it launched on Steam, and I was like, hey devs, what's happening with CardLife? This is under their Gamecraft game. So I'm not going to show you anything about this game, because who the fuck cares? We're not supporting it, and yeah, let's leave it at that. So hey devs, what's happening to CardLife? This seems to be the newest project you're working on. Can you fill me in on what's happening with CardLife? Thanks. Pretty easy, pretty nice. And developer got right back. He's like, we are currently not doing any more feature work for CardLife. This doesn't mean it's being shut down. It just means no more new updates will be released, which is basically saying they're done on. They're not working on it anymore. So it might as well be shut down, to be honest. But yeah, so they can say this openly and freely on their game that they're working on, that they abandoned, CardLife for, but they can't tell the community on CardLife that this is their stance. So I did that for them, but we're going to make sure that everyone knows on CardLife what this game is really kind of standing for. It's standing for a way to fuel fundage to this new project that they've been working on. And it's a piss off when that happens. So I responded with, well, so will CardLife be moving out of early access? Because that's the first question you need to ask. When people stop working on the game, you throw them that question. Well, why the fuck don't you just move it out of early access and say, put a cork on it and say, this is all you're getting, buy it or don't buy it? Because they don't. They want to keep getting the money and the revenue from it, right? And it's a disappointing kind of situation that you know, it happens on Steam Early Access because it's not governed properly, and we got people like us that get pissed off about it, and we're justified in doing so. So there you go. Are you going to have some bug fixes at least, or what's going on with it, with what's going on currently? Because there were some bugs, and I'm not familiar with them because I haven't been with the community all along. But I'm going to take their word for it and say, you know what? If they say there's bugs there, and let's move on through that. So that was my take on that, and so I approached the community behind it, and I think I mentioned it, but several other people were already saying the exact same thing. Like, this person's saying right away, don't buy, it's abandoned. You know, I just, you could read some of through these, and this nice person actually posted this just a couple days ago. So here's somebody who's been invested in this game heavily, and they've enjoyed it, and now they've got all this passion for it, but there's no developer responding to it, which is insulting to this person, because if they're passionate enough to give you their money and to follow and play your game, at least respond to them. Because what this community is owed right now is that little line that it took you less than 24 hours to respond to me in your current game of Gamecraft. They deserve that on this game. You know, they deserve a blanket statement. But when you come to the development updates of this game, all it is it's 50% off. Like, the last few updates of 2020 have just been discounts. So, you know, it's a red flag. It's these people just want your money. So don't buy this game. It's not worth it. As cool and interesting as it is, because it is cool and interesting. Oh yeah, yeah, that's right, IndieDB. That's where I saw it. It's not going anywhere, and so we, as much as we want it, because we wouldn't go and, oh yeah, this is another piss off. Sorry, I'm going on a little bit of a rant. So when this came out and one of these sales happens, I saw it on Twitter, and I popped back and I was like, hey, why are you guys selling this on Twitter when it is not being developed anymore? And you know, now it's just being discounted and it's being hawked at this price. And then they didn't respond, obviously, but somebody did, and somebody was like, well, I bought it for $5 or $6 or whatever it was, and I got X amount of hours out of it, and it was enjoyment, and it's totally worthwhile. I don't see the problem here. And I'm like, oh, like, what do you mean? Because they just don't get it. They're not part of the early access scene. They're looking at this product as just being what it is, and then, you know, paying the money for it and getting that kind of their enjoyment of it. But for us, it's much different. It's about seeing projects happen, go through the motion of like early stages to final stages, and being part of a whole process of it. And that's what I like, and I know that's what you guys like, and that's why we're pissed off when things like this happen. So I got into the argument back and forth about that, and it just gives me the analogy that when you go into a store and you're buying products, whether they're on sale or what, they're finished products. You don't go into a store and buy something that's not finished. You don't go to buy a pair of shoes that doesn't have laces or doesn't have soles, and they're like, oh, but they're only $5, and then somebody buys them, and then they get on the review site, they get on like Yelp or whatever, and they're like, oh yeah, these shoes are great, I wore them for 2 weeks, they only cost me $5. Like, that's not, they wouldn't be allowed to be sold, for one thing, because they're not safe. And anyways, like, let's not even dig into that can of worms. But that's the train of thought that pisses you off when you see people like make a response like that. At least it does to me. So, rant over. That's it. Stay away from Freejam and their other titles or anything else they're working on until they address the community that started it all for them here. And I know they worked on a larger game called Robocraft, but still, get to work on these people, because they're just not people that you can ask for money and just leave them alone. So fucking smarten up. Right. So let's take a look at the game. I don't even really want to play it for you guys, because to be honest, I like the game. I've been following it forever. It's got a cool feel to it. Looks like there's a decent amount of content. Hey, sorry about that. I kind of lost everybody as I was dinking around with it going to my other monitor. Anyways, this is the game. I crafted a helmet. It's got lots of cool kind of things you can craft. Well, a couple different armors. I believe there are some dungeons and some raiding in this. There's certain things that, you know, add a little bit more depth to a survival game, and it makes you kind of want to play it. It's voxel based. You can kind of see how it works, how it reacts, and yeah, it's sadly it's got so much potential, just like that person said. And I'm really sorry that they're so passionate about it and they're not getting what they deserve out of it. And anybody who's spent money on this, you deserve more than what's happening right now. So it's extremely frustrating for you and for me that tries to hold the developers accountable. But we all have to, right? We all have to kind of shy away from game jam and games like this. You can't really, or free jam rather, you can't support these kind of things. So with that said, I don't want to keep the video longer than it has been because I gave a big huge rant. But I appreciate your time, and if you found this interesting, and yeah, it's something that you're into, and you're interested in being part of this moving community to kind of like combat these abandoned games, then like and subscribe, and we'll tackle some more titles down the line. Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.